Welcome back to Better Than I Deserve. If you are new here, I'm Jamie, and this is our freeze dryer that we have had many adventures and cycles with in the last year and a half, almost 2 years. And if you saw our last video, we did a whole cycle about breast milk, and believe it or not, I did 3 more cycles after that to complete the breast milk that we had, and everything went so well, and I was very happy to get everything back to my sister-in-law for her and her daughter, our niece, and I hope that everything works out as they need it. And it was a wonderful experience, and I'm glad that we got to do it, and now we get to move on to our next thing of something that we haven't done. Obviously, I am always very excited to share the things that we are doing here, and it's a beautiful day outside, a beautiful fall autumn day, my favorite time of year because I get to pull out the sweaters because it's sweater weather. And I hope out there that you enjoy this time of year as well, and the leaves are changing, those temperatures are becoming cool and crisp, and you can just feel it around you. But the other reason I am very excited to share this video is it could possibly be the last one we get to share with all of you at this house, because we are moving. We are doing a huge move across the country, and that's kind of what inspired this video today. Brad and I started looking through our freezers and realized we have quite a few things that we really can't eat through in this amount of time, and can't really bring across the country in an easy way, because in this case we are going to be doing ice cream sandwiches, and as we kind of realize, those don't stay frozen very easily. It's not like a harder thing like fish or meat where, you know, they can get that solidified. Ice cream sandwiches are kind of chewy right off the bat. So today our video is about ice cream sandwiches, and we have a couple different kinds going in. Our first is a classic vanilla with a chocolate wafer. Our second is a nice fall inspired pumpkin ice cream with a pumpkin wafer. And the last one that we had, actually not an ice cream sandwich, but a Greek yogurt blueberry kind of like ice cream bar. So we just had way too many of them to get through before we left. So we figured that we would go on this adventure and share it. I know lots of other people out there have done this, but we are all about sharing the first time experiences that we do, so you can learn from us. But I will go ahead and move over to the freeze dryer to get it cooled down, and I'll get the trays so I can share what it looks like and talk about kind of our pre-prep that we did before it goes in for our possibly last cycle. But I will be right back with everything after we start up the freeze dryer. All of our trays are nice and cold coming out of the freezer upstairs, but our first tray is shared with our pumpkin and our very traditional vanilla with a chocolate wafer. So they smell really good. This will be hard not to taste test too many of these when they come out, I'm sure. But the few little points that I want to make about what we did for preparation is I put parchment down just in case it got a little messy or sticky, mostly for help of release. I don't mind cleaning the trays. They're really easy to clean. But for cutting them, we cut them into 8 even pieces, as even as we could get, and just line them up on the trays. And my little specific detail that I wanted to do was put them so they were wafer side up and down, mostly since I know most of that moisture is going to be in the ice cream, and of course the highest fat item, I wanted to make sure that the air could penetrate that the best. So if you had these on their side like this, like that one, part of your ice cream is touching the tray, so it might not be able to get that part quite as well. So I am not sure if that's how everybody else does it, because I didn't do any research. We're just going for it as we usually do, but I'll show the other trays. Our 2 middle trays are pretty much identical. Whoa. Of just regular traditional ice cream sandwiches. So just vanilla and chocolate, so same kind of layout with the wafer up and down. And our final tray is shared with the rest of the pumpkin ice cream sandwiches and our Greek yogurt bars that we kind of cubed up. and they have a little less meat to them, so they're kind of getting a little soupy there at the bottom, but nothing too terrible because, like I said, these trays are ice cold. My hands are pieces of cubes. So we will go ahead and get these into the freeze dryer and start our cycle. Now that we have our food loaded in the freeze dryer and our cool time is complete, we can close our drain valve and begin. Now that we've started our cycle officially, the sun is beaming through and it's beautiful, and I can't wait to get back outside and play a little bit with the family. But stick around, and in just a little bit we'll be able to pull these out and see how they have turned out. Hopefully they will be done and we can package them up for our big move. But if you have any thoughts you want to share on what it's like to make a big gigantic move like that, please share them or your story, because I know everybody's got one and I'm just hoping it goes as smoothly as possible. But this is real life, so there's always some kind of curveball to come at you. But in a little bit we'll be able to check back in and see how everything goes, so we'll see you soon. It's the next day and I just went ahead and clicked warm trays. Since we're dealing with something that's going to be nice and cold, it will be much easier to tell if there are any chilled spots on the bottom of the trays immediately. But at 18 and a half hours later, roughly, we are back down here to check and get them out. A few things that we noticed: Brad had seen it initially in there. Some of the little pieces that we cut looked like they bubbled up a little bit more, and obviously that could be amount of sugar in there, and he seemed to notice that it was more with the pumpkin ones. I'm sure, flavoring and possibly extra sugar that's in there, because I didn't do a comparison of amount of ingredients or sugar between the two types, but that will be definitely interesting to see. Another conversation I have seen kind of, around social media and Facebook groups and things like that is about the differentiating amounts of ability of your trays, as in, like, some shelves do a little bit better or more thorough of a job, like maybe the bottoms have a little bit more hard time than the top, which I find so hard to understand why that would be, because the area that the freeze dryer, it's a cylinder, so it's a pretty small area. It's not like you have like this giant space, so obviously it could be the case, but I have a hard time thinking that that would be the only thing that would cause some of those issues or changes between the food items you're doing, because it should be pretty generally good with all of that circulation, and the pressure is pretty consistent in there. But we will move over to the freeze dryer and release that pressure, and since our trays will be nice and warm, it should be pretty easy to identify if there's anything cold on there. So let's take a look. So the first one I pulled out is the half pumpkin and partial Greek yogurt ice cream bars. So you can kind of see that they did a little bit more cooling. Everything's really slippery, so that's good. But some pieces are right next to each other. I'm trying to see if I can release those. So it almost made like a little pool circle on the top. It almost looks like a melted snowman. So these feel nice and dry so far. Let's feel the tops. They're nice and stuck together. They remind me of those circus peanuts. But they feel good so far. An example of some of the bubbling that we have seen. So you can kind of see like how it popped out there on the sides, like not all around it, just on some of it, which makes me think that it is the pumpkin itself because of possibly more sugar, because we've seen that with fruit. We've seen that with lots of other things that we've done. Tomatoes, they kind of have more of that natural sugar in there. A little bit of these connected, but everything feels good. I am going to put this tray back in while we pull out our next. For a quick comparison, this tray, our second tray I'm pulling out, was on the top shelf. The first one I pulled out was on the bottom shelf, and these look exactly like what they look like going in. So maybe it does have something to do with the trays and where they are on what shelves, because these are the same items, but there is absolutely no bubbling. Kind of look at it all from all angles. And obviously our other ones look pretty good. So we are going to be doing a taste test with the boys. They were all too excited to enjoy these. I will be setting some aside for when we're done with packaging for them to come down and do a taste test with me. But for now, again, I'm going to put them back in and check our other two trays out. So our final two trays here are the just regular chocolate wafer with vanilla, and I saw only an instance of a little bubbling on what was our third tray down. So that would mean that the bottom two trays did have more bubbling than the top two. And obviously, this being a different one than the pumpkin, it would have nothing to do with the sugar content. It wasn't bubbling on all of them, but let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like. So not a lot, so it could have something to do with that progressively, as those shelving units get lower, that there is, you know, more pressure, colder temperatures, a myriad of different things, drier, that it does have some effect. But this one has a little bit of the bubbling, like I said, third tray, and then this one was the second tray in there from the top. So I see possibly one that's right on the edge that changed the way it looked. So not too sure, but I have felt nothing cold on the bottom, and of course as we're doing those touches on the top lightly, I have felt nothing there as well. I am going to break one of these open just to kind of test and see what it feels like, but I am expecting that there won't be any kind of problem. So we'll pick one of these a little bit bigger pieces to kind of break. I do have a bowl right here that I'm going to put it over, just so we don't get a bunch of mess on the tray. So I did go ahead and try that other one, and I couldn't taste anything that was cold, but interestingly enough, what it has done is it has made it almost completely hollow inside. It's so cool. So it's almost like maybe on the pieces that have like a little bit of that bubbling, it pushed it out the back. So it gives the illusion, I know you probably won't be able to tell, that it's yellowed, so it would be cold in there, but that's probably just the fat, I would imagine, from the ice cream. But I think that they are done. I haven't seen something that is telling me otherwise. So we'll probably break open a couple just to verify on each tray. So we will continue on with some packaging, and like I said, I'll set these aside and let the boys try them at the end as well. Unfortunately, my chair has been stolen in all of our changing things that we're doing. So I went ahead and got our large bag for the chocolate and vanilla, because there's the most of those. Now that we have that labeled, we can get these in here. And they're pretty firm. Like, it's not easy to break, so they're not as fragile as I was thinking that they were going to be. So that's kind of a nice thing. They're a little bit bulky, so that is definitely a plus to using the larger bag in our case. I believe the amount that we had of these in the end was close to maybe 12 to 13 bars that I cut up into amounts of 8. So we have quite a few pieces here. And some, aside from just putting them in this bag, I will be setting some aside for trying, like I had said already, and also probably a few for upstairs to go in for occasional trying. Getting a glass jar out to put our remaining of those in to have upstairs. Set that aside. So now we have a very full bag. It's probably roughly to right there. So we might have to make a couple adjustments on getting that to seal. But overall, a nice chunky bag. So I'll get these trays cleared out and we'll move on to the pumpkin. I went ahead and separated the pumpkin that was on this tray to here, just for ease of use. But we will do our kind of crack and break here. So I have a pumpkin piece here. They definitely just kind of crumble apart, which is to be expected. So this is the pumpkin one, and not like hollow. This is the broken one, so it looks pretty good. It might be just a little bit darker inside than the outside, but it's not cold. That just might be the sugar aspect of it. But yeah, everything is still looking really good. And now we can kind of take a gander at our yogurt one. So that's kind of what it looks like. It reminds me of what our marshmallows kind of look like. And we've done yogurt drops before. So I'll break this one and check and see it inside. It's a really pretty color too, because it's kind of like lavender, periwinkle, but nice and dry. You can kind of see where I split it there, and feels good. Doesn't feel like anything, so perfect. I'm gonna set some pieces aside for the boys to try and get some of these yogurt bites. We should be good. So we'll continue packaging these up. I'm going to, I think I'm going to use the smaller bag for the pumpkin. I think I lied. I think I'm going to use the bigger one for the pumpkin. Even though it's not nearly as much, just the bulkiness is what concerns me. What am I doing? I have to label my bag. Silly me. Not quite as full, but I think it would have been just too much for the smaller bag. So we'll put this aside. And our final one, since it was more like experimenting with what we had, I'm actually just going to put those into a jar to have upstairs as a little treat. There's way too little to put into a Mylar bag, and I know that these will be enjoyed, and if we don't get to them before we move, then they will be nice and safe instead of having to worry about them in a moving truck. Our impulse sealer down, our oxygen absorbers out. So we have our pumpkin, we'll put our oxygen absorber in, and we are at our 8 range. And we will get these sealed up. Three times, nice and tidy all the way across. And our very, very full chocolate and vanilla. Oxygen absorber in. So our product comes up right about to that white top label there. So plenty of room to still seal it up. And 3 across the top there. So that was pretty quick and painless. I love it when freeze drying cycles go like this, and obviously keeping your freeze drying cycles as simple as possible is best, because we did pretty much the same things, and so there wasn't a lot of different ways to handle things. You knew and what to expect of getting them off once you kind of did that first tray. So makes it a lot easier, but I did realize I never shut off the freeze dryer, so I'm going to do that now, and I am going to try the defrost feature again. Since the first time we did that, we had a couple hiccups with a little bit of leaking around the door, so this is a perfect time to check and see if that was a fluke or maybe we have some kind of issue. On there, as a reminder, it tells you and reminds you to keep that drain valve open, which we don't have to touch it or mess with it. And of course, to make sure that you have all of your product out of there, which we do, and to close the door once you have all of these things done. You press continue, and you can kind of hear it start to do like a click of warming. You're not going to feel anything on the sides or probably even on the door until it's like really deep into that heat cycle. The other thing is that it lets you adjust how long you want to do a defrost for. Standard amount, just like when it comes to adding extra dry time from the factory, is 2 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and up that, because I know that I'm not trying to run a cycle in the next 2 hours. If I did anything by any regard, it would be a little bit later tonight, which is several hours away. So I'm going to put 4 hours on. I'm going to double that initial time. And it goes up in half-hour increments. So I'm gonna go get the boys to do our taste test and see what they think. Oh. Are you excited for that? All right, so we've got the boys down here, and we have our little sample treats of the different ones. Which one do you want to try first? That one?
Oh.
That's the ice cream, the Greek yogurt bar. What do you think? I'll try some too again. Ah!
That's really good.
Oh my god.
So crunchy.
Do you like it? I have some saved in a jar.
I can't wait to try the ice cream. Mmm. Just like from NASA.
I'm gonna try the pumpkin one.
You gonna try the pumpkin one? Okay. It tastes like a graham cracker, like a flavor. Yes. So Brad just noticed that some of them are hollowed, like the ones I showed earlier, because it seemed like when they bubble out, that's all of the center pushing out. So like if you did that one, I bet it's the same thing. Oh yeah. So same thing again. I'd say we have consistent results of seeing that if the piece bubbled out, it pushed the center out, so it's hollow. Well, while we finish these snacks, we hope that you enjoyed today's video, and obviously, like I said, our next one could be somewhere different. But in the meantime, if you are not yet subscribed to our channel and you like the content that we are putting out, please consider subscribing, and you'll be notified when future videos are set to premiere or post. But until then, we hope that you're having a great day, you're doing well, and of course, we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye!